Imagine a world where glaciers, once a symbol of eternal ice, are disappearing at an alarming rate. Last year, Venezuela bid farewell to its last glacier, and Colombia followed suit. This isn't an isolated incident. Globally, all 58 glaciers monitored by the American Meteorological Society, AMS, lost mass in 2024. Only one other year since 1970 saw every single monitored glacier shrink. 2023. And this is the part most people miss. 2024 appears to have shattered the grim records set just the year before for global temperatures and greenhouse gas concentrations. According to the latest AMS climate assessment, the 527-page State of the Climate Report states, the annual global temperature across land and ocean was the highest recorded in the observational record. This anomalous warmth was widespread, affecting most regions and contributing to significant changes in key climate indicators. The heat spikes in 2023 and 2024 are likely the result of a combination of human activities and natural variability. The report notes that rising atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases, which contribute to global warming, showed no signs of slowing down. This warming trend has intensified the water cycle, leading to record-breaking single-day rainfall totals worldwide, indicating an increase in rainfall intensity. The consequences of this warming were particularly severe in South America. Below the melting glaciers in Venezuela and Colombia, Brazil experienced its worst flooding disaster on record, as well as its third driest year ever. This stark contrast highlights the unpredictable and often devastating impacts of climate change. Atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide, the most abundant greenhouse gas, grew at a record rate in 2024, matching the largest annual increase since records began in 1960. These emissions primarily come from the burning of fossil fuels, a practice that continues to rise globally, despite decades of international agreements aimed at reducing emissions. Despite spending trillions of dollars on climate change initiatives, the results have been relatively ineffective, said Charles McConnell, a former Assistant Energy Secretary under the Obama administration and now Director of the Center for Carbon Management and Energy at the University of Houston. If we keep relying solely on politicians meeting in fancy hotels to discuss the issue, we won't make significant progress. It's a proven track record. The AMS report also highlighted a concerning trend in methane emissions, which, although less abundant than carbon dioxide, warms the climate much faster and contributes to about 30% of the global temperature increase. Reducing methane emissions, which come from various sources, is seen as a quick way to mitigate global warming in the short term. The rise in methane concentrations began to accelerate around 2014 and has continued to increase since 2020. There's a lot of uncertainty about the exact sources of these emissions, said David Lyon, a senior methane scientist with the Environmental Defense Fund. Scientists are still debating this issue. While some methane emissions are linked to fossil fuel extraction, Lyon noted that these emissions have remained consistent in the U.S. Despite a sharp increase in fossil fuel production, other theories suggest that large amounts of methane are being released from waterlogged tropical wetlands due to climate and land use changes. Livestock and landfills also contribute significantly to methane emissions. Robert Dunn, a senior operational meteorologist at the Met Office and an editor of the AMS report, explained, there have been increases in emissions from microbial sources since 2008. Which includes livestock and natural wetlands and lakes. There may also be small increases due to fossil fuel emissions since that time. More recently, emissions from tropical wetlands are thought to play a dominant role in the post-2020 surge. The AMS report, in its 35th edition, drew on the work of 590 academic authors and editors from 58 countries. It analyzed 6 global temperature datasets and numerous others from observatories worldwide, including the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii, which has been measuring atmospheric carbon dioxide since 1958. The Mauna Loa Observatory's 65-year record of atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations is considered the most iconic demonstration of human activity's impact on the atmosphere. However, its future is uncertain due to budget cuts and other government agency reductions in Washington. NOAA faced significant funding cuts in President Trump's budget bill, and the U.S. General Services Administration has suggested it may not renew its lease on the observatory's office space. "We are in a wait-and-see mode," said Anjuli Bamzai, a former president of AMS. "It would be a pity if Mauna Loa were lost. Other climate observations would become more valuable, but it remains to be seen how other nations and leaders would respond if the U.S. retreats from climate monitoring." This story, like all the news we publish, is free to read because Inside Climate News is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We do not charge subscription fees, lock our news behind paywalls, or clutter our website with ads. Our mission is to make climate and environmental news freely available to everyone. We also share our news with numerous other media organizations across the country that can't afford to do environmental journalism on their own. We have bureaus from coast to coast, collaborating with local newsrooms and co-publishing articles to ensure this vital work reaches as many people as possible. Two of us launched ICN in 2007. 6 years later, we won a Pulitzer Prize for national reporting and now run the oldest and largest dedicated climate newsroom in the nation. We delve into the complexities of climate issues, hold polluters accountable, expose environmental injustice, debunk misinformation, scrutinize solutions, and inspire action. Donations from readers like you fund every aspect of our work. If you haven't already, will you support our ongoing efforts to report on the biggest crisis facing our planet and help us reach even more readers in more places? Please consider making a tax-deductible donation. Every contribution makes a difference. Thank you, Dylan Baddour, reporter. Austin Dylan Baddour covers the energy sector and environmental justice in Texas. Born in Houston, he has worked on the business desk at the Houston Chronicle, covered the U.S.-Mexico border for international outlets, and reported from Colombia for media like The Washington Post, BBC News, and The Atlantic. He also spent 2 years investigating armed groups in Latin America for Facebook's Global Security Department before returning to Texas journalism. Baddour holds bachelor's degrees in journalism and Latin American studies from the University of Texas at Austin. He has lived in Argentina, Kazakhstan, and Colombia and speaks fluent Spanish.